Are you tired of listening to all those boring podcasts out there? Then try our boring podcasts. Since 2007, Southsider Studios has been bringing you the best in podcast entertainment. You can download all of our fine podcasts on iTunes or on any podcatching services available. Southsider Studios. Excellence in podcasting. Cinesmack contains spoilers of the spoiling type. If you don't want your spoilers spoiled, please turn back now. Otherwise, enjoy the show!
Hello, gang. Welcome back to Cinesmack. This is fight number 8. Joining me are 3 of our usual judges. Mr. Tom Haggis.
Greeting, Earthlings. Hi, everybody. I forgot where I was. Sorry.
Senior Mark Johnson.
Get ready for the greatest use of hyperbole ever.
And Sir Gabriel Rollwald.
E.T. Skype home.
Jesus.
Well, hey, if we're going to update E.T., we got to bring him into the future. God.
And joining us this evening as a special guest is Miss Amanda Keeler.
Hi. I don't have any funny
way to bring the show
jokes.
down.
I know, I'm sorry.
Way to bring the show down.
I didn't want to show up any of the normal.
I can tell already this isn't going to work out.
I didn't want to show you guys up.
It's been fun.
Bring in the next co-host. Come on, bring him in.
Well, for this episode, we actually have a stunt announcer, Nathan. Our regular monkey is sick. He has a bad cold. So let's start it off.
Ladies and gentlemen, legal and illegal aliens, welcome to tonight's main event. In the first corner, released in 1982, directed by Steven Spielberg, starring Henry Thomas, Dee Wallace, and Peter Coyote, E.T. In the second corner, released in 2011, directed by J.J. Abrams, starring Joel Courtney, Elle Fanning, and Kyle Chandler, Super 8.
All right, there we go. He has a much
Okay,
deeper voice.
I'm going to complain right off the bat.
All right.
Okay. Dee Wallace? Really? Over Drew Barrymore?
Well, that's how they were listed.
On the movie poster from 1982?
Exactly.
Okay, well, I applaud your authenticity. Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
I think that authentically sucked.
There we go. That's the smack I'm wanting. All right. Well, while we're on a roll, let's go ahead and let's get to writing. Gabe, let's start with you.
Yes, I'm here. Oh, writing. You know what? Honestly, now that I have to talk about it, I realized that I didn't think about the writing too much with either of these.
Oh,
at least not in comparison with each other. But I think in the end, I feel like as far as, I don't know, as far as character development, and, obviously, we all know that Super 8 is supposed to be kind of an homage to Spielberg films and similar films of the time. So originality is almost kind of thrown out the window a little bit in that it's kind of referencing existing films. But as far as character development, I really feel like E.T. hands down, trumps Super 8. And it goes as far as even character development for the creature itself. And I don't know how many of our listeners have already seen Super 8. So, maybe we ought to give a little bit of a spoiler alert in that we're going to talk about kind of the creature and how things end.
Well, we already have
a little bit.
We have the spoiler alert already at the beginning of the show. So
okay.
It should be all right.
Well, so I didn't want to ruin anything for anybody, but with ET, I mean, even the creature itself is much more developed from a character standpoint than Super 8 was. So I think, interestingly, yeah, I don't know why I didn't really consider the writing that much, but I think in the end, if I were to think about it, I felt like ET was much stronger that way from a character development and story development standpoint.
All right, fair enough. I forgot my manners. I should have gone with the lady first. So, Mark,
How dare you, Mike? Oh,
go ahead.
Oh,
and my how dare you was very well timed. All right. I guess I want to get into why Melissa Matheson is a son of a bitch.
Wow.
wow.
She introduces us to this lovable alien character, and he comes to our planet and he learns our language, he learns our culture, he learns our ways, and we just fall in love with the guy. And what does she do? She kills him in the beginning of the third act. Thank
man,
you.
I haven't seen it yet.
Spoiler alert.
Make my heart grow 3 sizes and then just cut it in half. Thank you. I appreciate that. But
So
no,
does that mean your heart is still 1.5 sizes?
yes. It is approximately
larger.
50% bigger than it was before I started watching. So I should be happy, but I'm angry instead.
I see. Okay.
Reverse effect. But no, I mean
so
she does
lost
a
right
good
now.
job of this. I mean, this doesn't involve the writing, but the alien in the film is clearly this, person-controlled puppet thing that we probably shouldn't feel anything for. I mean, his eyes just get big and his neck extends and his finger lights up. We shouldn't really feel for this thing, but I think the writing elevates, the puppet mask to something much greater, and we sort of connect with this little guy and the relationship he has with Elliot, and it's very, it's very simple and very, it's great. I guess I don't know how else to describe it, and Super 8 is good, but you can't measure that to ET. Like
Right.
the greatness there, just you can't compare. I mean, JJ has a lot of history in writing. Not always great, sometimes really bad. I think Gone Fishing is on his resume. So,
Are you kidding me?
I mean, he crafts a good story. I feel like ET is more of a kind of more of a fantasy, and Super 8 deals a lot more, kind of with like more mature subjects and issues, and the kids are a little bit older, so it's kind of a different film, and it sort of feels more like a Goonies than it does ET. But hats off to Melissa, and I'm sorry I called you a son of a bitch. ET
Oh my
wins.
God, Gone Fishing is on his list.
Yes, Gone Fishing is on the list.
Oh, and regarding Henry.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I did
Really?
not know that. As a writer?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
As a writer. All right. Amanda.
I agree. I agree with Mark's point on the whole character development thing, because it seemed like they wrote the whole Super 8. It seemed like they wrote the whole thing about Joe's relationship with his dad, or Joe's relationship with Alice, and the fact that a train crashed carrying an alien in their town was kind of like a secondary plot going on in the movie. So, but along the whole spoiler alert point, Mike kind of ruined E.T. for me. The last time I saw E.T., I think I was like 6 or 7, maybe, because it actually came out before I was born. And the other night, Mike was talking to somebody about E.T., about when you think he dies the first time. And Mike made that.
I didn't say that.
Yes, you did. You
Did
said
I?
it to Gabe.
Oh.
You said, when you think that he's dead. And so then I was still bawling, crying,
Oh, God,
thinking
that
that
gets me
E.T.
every
died.
time.
But I knew that he wasn't really dead because you said that the other night. So thanks
You're welcome.
for that.
So your vote's for what now?
For E.T.
Okay, thanks. That counts as half a vote. Tom.
No, 3/5.
3/5, that's right. Tom. Go
Hey,
ahead.
how's everybody going? I didn't hear you say my name the first. So, first of all, like totally psyched to do these two movies because, and I put this up on Facebook. But E.T. was the very first movie that I ever saw at the movie theater when I was 5 years old, and Super 8 was the last movie I saw in the movie theater. I even bailed on my kids, taking my kids to see Cars 2, so I could say that tonight. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. On to the writing.
Let's hope it doesn't end up being the last movie that you see.
Right. Way to crush their dreams for the podcast, Tom. Thank you.
My wife took them.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
I'm thankful on many points. I thought, getting to the writing, I thought that the dialogue in Super 8 was a lot better in terms of the kids talking to each other than E.T. I thought E.T. they tried to force it a little bit and make it witty, and it was really good. But I like the dialogue in Super 8 better. And the other thing that Super 8 did better was that JJ was able to take the alien and create this tangible thing that represents the death of a family member. Mm-hmm. This very alien feeling that comes in and disrupts your life and tears things down and rips people apart, and literally, and was able to use the alien as a symbol or a metaphor for what was going on between this dad and this son. The way that they weren't able to talk about it, the way they weren't able to understand it. And I thought Super 8 did that just totally, totally awesome. They did a great job with it. I'm giving my vote to E.T. because Super 8 just drops the ball in the last 10 minutes. It gets to the end, and it just kind of tapers off, and I probably need to go back and watch it again. And I did the whole alien as a feeling between the son and father didn't really occur to me till later, and maybe I need to watch the end of it again and see if that metaphor is carried right through to the credits. If we were voting on credits, by the way, Super 8 wins hands down, because that was awesome. Credits on Super 8 are awesome.
Right.
But not because of the credits.
Not because of the credits, because of the stuff going on next to the credits. So shame on anyone that leaves the theater before the credits are over. All those people worked very, very hard, and you should sit down and applaud all the work of the caterers and drivers and personal assistants. But I'm going to give it to E.T. because I thought E.T. was more solid throughout. But Super 8 did a lot of things really, really well. And I feel like tonight E.T. is going to get an extra boost because of where it is in pop culture. Mm-hmm. We know its place. We don't know where Super 8 is going to be 25, 30 years from now. And I think, we know from the distance between us and E.T. that it will stand the test of time, and it will be judged as one of the greatest family films of all time. We don't know that with Super 8. So E.T. is going to get kind of a bonus, and we'll have to do another podcast in 25 years and see where Super 8's at. But my vote's going to go to E.T.
All right.
I'd just like to reference the writing a little bit too.
Okay.
Again, on another note, if you don't mind.
I do mind, but go ahead.
Okay, then I'll stop. No, I won't. When I watched E.T. the first time when I was young, I remember it kind of. I felt like, at least at the time, that it was portraying a bit of a dysfunctional family. The father was gone. Mm-hmm. The kids were kind of at each other a little bit. And the mother wasn't necessarily in control, and I felt like at the time it was kind of a dysfunctional family. But when I watched Super 8, I thought, wow, it's not just a dysfunctional family, it's many dysfunctional families all kind of brought into the same story, and they just felt really dysfunctional compared to what I saw in E.T. When I rewatched it. When I rewatched it, it's like, well, this family gets along quite well compared to the families in Super 8. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, it just seemed maybe a little overdone. Maybe not, but I was wondering what you guys felt, if you saw anything like that as far as the dysfunctionality of the families that were portrayed, or if you had any opinions on that.
Well, I think they had to write it two different ways. Like when they wrote that back in the 80s, that probably was dysfunctional and not as normal that was, that was a dysfunctional family back in the 80s in E.T. But now to have give that same kind of impression to an audience, they have to write something like Super 8, where every family on the block has some weird, crazy thing going on that doesn't fit that Norman Rockwell painting.
Right. Maybe it's a statement on how jaded I've become in my old age. In that it's like, E.T. They had it good. No dad at home. That's the good times. Compared to now. Right. I don't know. I didn't realize until I saw E.T. again just recently. I thought the whole dysfunctional family thing was actually kind of just drawn out of E.T. and kind of, a reference to that in E.T. But then I realized it was really magnified in Super 8, at least in my opinion.
Now, I guess I want to disagree a little bit on what Tom said, and that I thought the kid speak was really good in E.T. Having a couple young kids, I felt like their dialogue was authentic, and maybe it was improvised because of their age, but I thought they did a good job. Like when Drew Barrymore's repeating everything that's being said at the table, I mean, that just I felt like that worked, and I feel like in Super 8 the kids were almost talking above their age. I mean, how many kids that age are shooting short films? I mean, granted, there's probably a team at our local 48 who does that, but that can't be the norm. That couldn't have been the norm for the late 1970s. So I feel like the kids in Super 8 were almost acting, 5 to 7 years older than maybe they actually were intended to be. And as far as dysfunction goes, this has to be a deleted scene, but I have to think that when the father left, that he took all of Elliot's cool Star Wars figures, because all he had left was Greedo and Landau and like Walrus Face number 3 or whatever. he didn't have Luke or Han. He didn't have any of the cool action. So I think that just adds to the dysfunction of.
He didn't even have like Chewbacca or anything.
Yeah, I know.
I know.
They had Lando.
Yeah, Lando, exactly.
What's wrong with Lando?
He was in like 1.5 of the movies, okay?
So you're saying they needed more, I guess, the bigger stars of Star Wars, right?
Right.
Okay.
Now, Yoda does show up later, but I mean...
But that's the neighbor kid's costume.
Right, that's the neighbor. He knows what's going on. Elliot is playing with Greedo. What the... WTF?
Right, the neighbor's family is clearly not dysfunctional because he's got a Yoda costume.
Right.
I mean, duh.
All right, well, Tom, did you have something to add to that?
That scene in Super 8 where the train jumps off the tracks?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's how I'm feeling right now. No, it's just it went into. I was trying to think of something witty to say about the kids across the street have obviously seen Empire Strikes Back, and but he's got Lando, so I don't know, because it would have just come out right before E.T. But anyway, as far as the dysfunctional part of it, I just it registered to me as a child, but I didn't have any experience with the dysfunctional. Broken family, divorced parents. So it was very foreign to me at that age. But in response to the dialogue, I feel that the dialogue in E.T. is really good. Mm-hmm. But what I like about the dialogue in Super 8 is the kids kind of talking on top of each other, kind of like how we don't do on Cinesmack, where we all like take our turn. But in E.T., the kids take their turns, and it's not really all of them talking at the same time. How kids really talk is just they just all talk at the same time and assume everyone's hearing them. So that's kind of why I like the Super 8. I'm not saying that the dialogue in E.T. is bad. I guess what I'm saying is that I prefer the pacing and structure of the dialogue in Super 8. Right. The actual words that they use are very choice.
All right. Well, a little fun fact for E.T., the script was largely written while on location filming Raiders of the Lost Ark. During filming breaks, Steven Spielberg would dictate the story to screenwriter Melissa Matheson, who was there with her then-boyfriend and future husband, Harrison Ford. And J.J. Abrams named the film setting of Super 8 Lillian, Ohio, after his grandmother. There you go.
And the gas station was named after his grandfather.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Did you do some research
don't get me
on
started on Kelvin. Because Kelvin's been used in like every Bad Robot production ever.
it? Oh, really?
Really?
Kelvin was the name of a character on Lost. It was the name of the ship that Kirk's father pilots at the beginning
that's right.
of the
Yeah.
beginning of Star Trek.
Yeah.
It's the name of a like a pharmaceutical
Mark,
company.
you're
in
being
Fringe.
pinged.
I mean,
I know.
it's in everything.
I thought I wasn't supposed to start him on that.
Mark, you're being pinged.
Don't get me started.
It was too late. It was too late. You mentioned it. You said it. Too late.
I didn't even say the word.
Mark, are you in your submarine right now?
Well, it's weird. As I was talking, that really picked up, and then it immediately stopped. I don't know what happened.
I believe it was the airplane crashing on
One
the
ping
island.
only, presumably.
Pretty sure.
All
That
right.
Kelvin was already on because he was a member of the Dharma Initiative. but of all the Kelvins
Oh, God,
in
my head
the
hurts.
Bad Robot universe, I'd have to say that the Super 8 is my favorite because I mean it's sort of you have that giant rotating sign that's sort of covering up that scene with the alien and the gas station attendant. I thought that was pretty cool.
Are you done?
You do? I nerded out there for a second. I'm sorry.
All right, let's move on to acting.
It's getting late.
And we'll start with Tom.
All right. I think when I look at the acting, J.J. Abrams worked with a much larger ensemble. The cast for Super 8 is much larger and widespread than it is in E.T. E.T., I mean, what are you talking about? E.T. and then like 4 principal actors, really? 5, if you count Peter Coyote. Mm-hmm. And I think it's kind of interesting how we'll talk about that in directing, so I don't want to get into that. So what it really kind of came down to for me was Drew Barrymore's acting in E.T. and Elle Fanning's acting in Super 8. The scene that just gets me all the time, because usually I watch E.T. and I sit back and I'm like, yeah, I'm older now. I'm jaded. This movie isn't going to affect me. It doesn't. Yeah, I'm cool. And there's the scene where they use the defibrillator on E.T.
Yeah.
and Drew Barrymore jumps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gets me every damn time. I cannot get through that scene without missing up, because it's so good. Now I don't know if that's her acting or what Spielberg did to get her to jump, and part of it's the editing. It's done really, really well.
Probably electric shock.
What's that?
Electric shock, probably.
Yeah.
He tased her.
Just a taser.
Yeah, he just kind of gave her a taser in the
Yep.
leg, and she jumped, started crying. So I guess the question is that there's the story that Spielberg shot E.T. in chronological order, which is very rare for a movie to be shot in chronological order, so that the kids would grow and love E.T., so that when they got to that scene and the scene when E.T. leaves at the end, that the emotions were real and they were really feeling this closure to the story. And I gotta say, is that acting though? It's kind of like method directing, and I don't know if that really counts as really, really good acting. Whereas in Super 8, I can tell that it's acting, and I really can appreciate what Elle Fanning does. And Riley Griffiths, the kid that plays Charles in Super 8, was fantastic, and I can't believe the kid's never been in anything else before. I mean, he was really, really good. Henry Thomas, of course, was really great in E.T., but in the end, I probably have to give it to Super 8, because I'm kind of on the fence about whether or not what we see in E.T. really can be fairly called acting. Yeah, so I'm going to give it to Super 8, and I promise to direct more movies with children so I can figure this out.
All right. Amanda.
I have to agree with Tom, which I kind of wanted to vote for Super 8 just to tick him off, but he ruined that for me. When Alice is at the train station in Super 8, like, that was just phenomenal. And I agree, like, especially with Drew Barrymore, it seems like she was really young, and how much can they know about acting and trying to, convey a message and not use words on the screen. But Elle Fanning seems like she gets it. And apparently growing up in her household, that's just, in the air or the water or something. But, and the whole, everything going on between the dad and the son in Super 8, you just feel it. And it feels like in E.T., especially with the mom, she's kind of an over actress, which I think was kind of part of the time you had to be bigger and more dramatic. And yeah, I just didn't feel the acting there. So I'm going to give mine to Super 8.
Super 8, all right. Mark.
Oh, Tom, I hate you so much because you basically wrote down like everything I said, like all the key points and stuff. So I'm gonna retread what he said. I think Elle Fanning gives the best performance of either movie, and I'm really in a wind tunnel. Can you hear this?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm gonna cover my. Okay, is that better?
What are you doing?
Are you like
Who did
flying
you
your
kill?
biplane or what?
I don't know.
It's
There.
better
Okay,
now,
it's
no?
better. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Elle Fanning, I feel like she emotionally she holds together Super 8 for like the first 75 minutes of the film. I mean, she sort of has to be the balance between her drunken father and being the object of affection of the two boys. And she also has the car that gets that gets the crew to where they're going. So I mean, in all capacities, she has to be everything to everyone, and she's asked to do the most, and she delivers in spades. And I don't know how old she is. I think she was born in like '98.
I looked it up.
Incredible actress.
I looked it up. She was 13 when the movie was released.
Oh boy. So yeah, I think she's gonna have a real bright future, and but in E.T., I gotta give my Harry Doyle award to I forgot her name all of a sudden. Drew Barrymore, because she absolutely steals every single scene she's in, and she's just so adorable and cute, and she can't say anything wrong, and that's why when she does jump because of the defibrillator in the defibrillator scene, it's that more shocking because you've seen her so happy and glowy, if that's a word, in the previous moments of the film. So I'm going to give my acting to Super 8, piggybacking on what everyone else is saying, basically.
Hey, real quick there, Mark.
Yeah.
You might want to rethink the Harry Doyle Award. Sounds like something they give away at like a porn convention.
I know, but that's part of the charm, I think. If you give the Harry Doyle Award to like a 5-year-old girl, that...
then by all means, give the Harry Doyle to mine. Well done.
Good work.
Viva la Doyle.
Viva Doyle. Gabe.
Yeah. Well, I think overall those are good points, but I think my vote is going to swing the other way for a few reasons. One, that I think Elle Fanning was definitely the bright spot of Super 8. I'm not sure that any of the other child actors really impressed me that much. I felt that young actors acting often comes across as angry for them. For some reason, being loud and being angry for some reason is acting. Mm-hmm. And I felt like a lot of those actors, and maybe that's what led me to the whole dysfunctional thing too, they weren't really portraying genuine emotions. They were just kind of angry much of the time. And I just didn't, other than Elle, I just didn't feel like their acting was all that strong. And man, yeah, how can I did not remember Drew Barrymore being so freaking adorable. Oh my God, she was adorable. and I'm not kidding. What you said, Mark, everything that she did was just golden. Like, she was just so cute. And I don't know if that qualifies as acting. But I don't know how much of it has to be conscious in order for it to be good acting. I think if you're there in the moment and you are that character, and can a 6-year-old be that character? I don't know. Maybe she was just being herself, and maybe she's just really adorable in real life. But I just felt more connected to her. I'm not sure that. I don't know. I guess where I'd like to go with it is some of the acting that we didn't talk about, and that's with the creatures themselves. And I don't know if that qualifies as acting either, but I think it does a little bit, especially in the instance of E.T., because E.T. was overall pretty much a puppet. There were humans behind the scenes animating this creature and kind of acting for it. And I just felt like if we were to base it on the two creatures, E.T. wins hands down. E.T. has got a much broader range of feelings, a much broader range of emotion that he can express, and he's clearly more personable, more something that we can identify with. And I don't know if this goes in this category or where this goes, but I wanted to talk about the creatures a little bit and how E.T. works, because E.T. is somehow, we can identify with E.T. Mm-hmm. E.T. feels more human, although he doesn't really look human. And one of the actors in one of the extras mentioned E.T.'s eyes and how it was the eyes that really capture you. Yeah. You know, E.T.'s eyes are welcoming. And, the alien in Super 8, I mean, what do we see this alien doing? Okay, first of all, it looks like a spider. Spiders creep me out. I don't even care if it's the friendliest spider, the politest spider that you've ever met.
Not even
it still
Charlotte's
creeps me
Web.
out. I will probably crush it. And then on top of that, it's not only a spider, but it's eating humans, which gives me zero sympathy for it. That even if it's trapped and cornered and hungry, it's eating humans, which I have very little sympathy for anything that eats humans. And then at the end, they try to make this connection with that creature,
right?
And there's supposed to be this moment where you feel like, you're supposed to feel sorry for this creature, like it's mm-hmm. trapped and it's scared, just like you would be. And there's a moment where its eyes, like, I don't know how to describe it. They like crack open, and it reveals like another set of eyes underneath, kind of. Yeah. That are, I assume, supposed to be more human, and that we're supposed to identify more with. But the fact that this other layer had to crack open and slide away just to reveal those eyes creeped me out even more. And I'm like, no way, this fucking thing is creepy and should die, because it looks like a spider, it's eating people, and it's got several sets of eyes, and I don't identify with it at all. And do you know what I'm saying? So, and I don't know if that falls under acting, but maybe it does a little bit. The creature had no range of emotions. It was just in Super 8, it had no range of emotions at all. It didn't act at all. It just ran around, destroyed things, and ate people. And so, from that standpoint, I felt like E.T. wins hands down.
Well, I wasn't.
What I wanted to throw out. So just out of curiosity, if the alien looked like Paddington Bear and just ran around eating ice cream sandwiches, your vote would have gone for Super 8?
No, not necessarily, because overall, the acting vote would not have necessarily gone to Super 8. No, even if the alien were a little bit more believable, because I felt like the strongest actor in really the only actor that carried the whole thing for Super 8 for me was Elle Fanning. She's fantastic, but the other kids were just kids. And I felt like with E.T.
come on.
No, really. With E.T., I thought they had a much better selection of kids. I'm not sure that, what's his name? Elliot. Who plays Elliot?
Henry Thomas.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Henry Thomas was great in all instances. Sometimes it seemed a little bit forced. When he saw E.T. dressed as a girl with the wig and all that kind of stuff, and he's like, oh, God. And I didn't feel like he was really all that convincing there. But my personal opinion was that there was a better ensemble in E.T. than there was in Super 8. I don't even hardly remember any of the other kids. Elle Fanning stood out, and the rest, if they ever do anything again, I'd be surprised.
Wow.
Ouch.
Does anyone want to add to that?
Time will tell.
Well, okay, like the some of them, they'll do other things because they're cute. They're like cute kids. They look nice. But I'm not sure that any of them other than Elle were great actors. I didn't feel like, wow, those kids are great. Whereas, I don't know. That's just
I disagree. I thought Riley
which one
Griffiths
was
was really great.
I thought is he the director kid? He's the kid who was. Yeah, I thought he was the angry. He's like he doesn't know how to act yet, so he just acts angry all the time.
You know
Of course,
what? Though?
he was angry because the cute, skinny kid
But he
was
was
stealing his girlfriend. If he was, of course,
Yeah, but he was
upset.
angry all the time though.
Wouldn't you be?
I'd be.
Yeah, even before that though. Even
He's
before
stealing my chance to be Dakota Fanning's brother-in-law. No way.
You know what though?
but he was angry before that. He was just a grumpy, angry kid.
Have you been on a movie set? Seriously? It's always like that.
I looked that kid up on IMDb because I wanted to see what else he had done, if anything, which Tom pointed out that he hasn't done any movies, but he's actually done Shakespeare in his hometown. Like, he's big into theater.
Well, maybe time will prove me wrong, and I welcome it because I don't wish anything. I don't wish any ill will to these kids. But I just didn't feel like they stood out like the cast did for E.T.
No, I have to agree with the whole monster thing. I remember being the kid in the theater, and I just fell in love with E.T., which, I mean, he does. He's got the big puppy dog eyes, and it with the Super 8 alien, maybe it's because we were looking, because we knew that Super 8 was an homage to, E.T., to Close Encounters, to Goonies, to all that we expected something that wasn't there. We expected the monster, or the alien to be a little more lovable. And it just wasn't. I mean, it wasn't meant to be. It wasn't meant to be the next E.T. It was just an homage to the kids that are trying to save their town. They're stuck in this circumstance.
Now, I didn't despise the alien as much as Gabe. I don't know if anyone saw this movie despise the alien that much, but I think I saw him more like Tom saw him, as he was sort of this metaphor for the dead mother, and sort of the revealing of the eyes. Since they reveal midway through the film that he sort of establishes this symbiotic relationship with the people who he comes in contact with, I think that sort of sets up that emotional scene where he tells the alien, he doesn't need to be angry, that he can let go. And that's not just him telling the alien that. That's him sort of getting that off his chest. And I think that's why we sort of see those eyes. Because I think if he said it to like a quote-unquote like regular alien face, I don't think that would have sort of went over as well. And I think that was kind of the point of it, because I'll agree that the alien was a despicable, selfish creature who didn't care about any of our human characters, but I cared more about those kids. I liked E.T. I was rooting for E.T. I want E.T. to get home and to get drunk and run into walls and have all types of goofy fun. I want that E.T., but I cared more about the kids in Super 8, and the alien Super 8 was just sort of this vessel to help move the drama forward.
Right. That's what Amanda said. It was just kind of the side. It wasn't the main story. The main story were the kids.
And
yeah.
the
Well, and I
relationships.
definitely really do like Tom's interpretation of the alien as representing, the dead mother and the relationship between, the father and son. I really like that interpretation of it, and it makes me. Because it's not something that came to my mind immediately, but after Tom said it, I'm like, well, that makes sense, and it makes me kind of enjoy it a little bit more. It makes me kind of understand the creature a little bit more. But in the end, I think the creature also kind of needs to stand on its own a little bit. I don't know, and maybe Tom, you were talking about the last 10 minutes where you felt like it kind of fell apart at the last 10 minutes. Well, maybe with that interpretation in mind, I was happy to see the alien go and hope that it would never return and it could just go off into space and just be gone for good. And maybe actually with your interpretation of it, that's what it's supposed to mean. Those feelings that they had, that terrible separation that they had between, the father and son, that can all be gone now, So I don't know. Maybe I was a little harsh on it, but I just definitely didn't. I didn't feel anything for the alien, and had the alien died at the end, I don't think I would have necessarily. That would have been a good way to get rid of those feelings too, and I wouldn't have been unsatisfied with
So
that.
Gabe would have been the only one standing up and cheering.
I would have been, woo! Yeah.
All right.
Shut both of those pairs of eyes, or whatever.
Bruce Greenwood provided most of the motion capture performance of the alien in Super 8. He is credited as Cooper. Bruce Greenwood. Okay. He is credited as Cooper, which was the creature's nickname on set. And at the auditions for E.T., Henry Thomas thought about the day his dog died to express sadness. Director Steven Spielberg cried and hired him on the spot.
Huh.
And also, just a little, we talked kind of about E.T.'s face. It was modeled after the poet Carl Sandburg, Albert Einstein, and a pug dog.
It's so funny that you say that, because the whole time, like when Gabe was talking about how you don't feel anything for the alien in Super 8 and how E.T. seemed human, he never seemed human to me. He seemed like a pet to me.
Yeah.
Like I'm very much an animal lover, and you try to teach your pet things, and you love them with all your heart, and you never want to have to let them go. And some people dress them up.
Yeah, you try. You try. But I look out for them. All right. Yeah. All right. Let's go ahead and we'll move on to directing. And let's go ahead and let Amanda start off with this one.
Oh my goodness. I've never directed anything in my life. I wouldn't know what I'm
You've directed one.
analyzing here.
You can do it.
I'm assuming, because J.J. Abrams seems a little heavy-handed, that he had a lot to do with all the lens flares in Super 8. And, like, in the beginning, it was kind of cool. Like, when the train came around and, like, came across their camera. Like, I got it then, but it was a little in your face about it. So it was kind of a lot and kind of distracting.
Oh,
and
God. Mark just blew up.
What?
Okay, he's still there. Go ahead.
No, I thought you were talking about the sound. Never mind.
he thought I was bad mouthing J.J. Abrams. It's okay.
No, it was the sound. But go ahead.
I think I have to vote for E.T. here, just because the whole thing seemed. I just felt more for the people in E.T. than I felt for anybody in Super 8. Like the aliens and the kids and everything. If I put them side by side, I'd have to say I felt more for E.T.
Okay. Let's go with Gabe.
Well, this is a tough one. In spite of the fact that I despise the alien so much, that's not. I don't really necessarily hold that against J.J. Abrams. This is a tough one because I respect both of them. They're both really very excellent and skilled directors. I'm glad, Amanda, that you mentioned the lens flares, because that's another thing that kind of bothered me a bit too. Because I felt like it was strangely overdone. And I purposely kind of paid attention during E.T. to see if those types of lens flares were in there to know if that was really kind of a reference to Spielberg movies. And they're definitely in there, but they don't necessarily seem intentional. Mm-hmm. Like it just seemed kind of like they were incidental, and they just happened to also be kind of beautiful. So let's just leave them in. There's no reason for us to avoid these lens flares. And it also makes you wonder, it's like, well, okay, we're shooting in low light. We need these, we need this lens with this aperture setting, and those lens flares are going to happen. There's not a lot we can do about it, So I felt like in E.T. they were kind of incidental, but in Super 8 they were very kind of intentional, and I was like, wow, they're almost distracting at this point. Mm-hmm. I'm noticing them, so they're probably too much, and, which I thought was kind of, I felt like it was a choice, which was maybe not a good one in Super 8. But I really admire J.J. Abrams, and interestingly, this is one movie where I didn't feel like he developed characters well enough. And he's usually so good at developing characters in movies that maybe even don't need it. You know, I think he's even revived certain, franchises like even Mission Impossible. It's like, well, I'm kind of starting to feel for the characters in Mission Impossible. And do I need to? Not necessarily, show me some cool locations and blow some shit up, and then I'm happy with Mission Impossible. But throw good character development in there, and wow, this is actually turning into a good movie. And I felt like he fell a little short with Super 8, unfortunately. So I was a little disappointed personally with that. And Steven Spielberg, he's had his share of flops, maybe one or two, I don't know. It's hard. It's really hard to argue with his skill and his mastery of directing, and he might be a little bit melodramatic at times. He might go a little over the top with emotion and those kinds of things, but he's just really fantastic. And I think it's also a directorial choice who you work with for music. And I'd just like to mention the music here for E.T. because it's fabulous. Now, there are kind of references and kind of undertones of other John Williams scores, of course. I felt a lot of Raiders of the Lost Ark in some of these kinds of things. But the music is just fantastic. And I really like who J.J. Abrams works with. I unfortunately don't know how to pronounce his name appropriately.
It's Giacchino.
What? Giacchino?
Giacchino.
Yeah,
he's good.
He's really good. I really like him a lot. But I really don't think in this instance you can compete against the E.T. score. So that I'll attribute that in this instance to another directorial choice. Although I admire both, and they both do great music too.
All right, Tom.
Yes, Steven Spielberg and kids. I mean, what can you say? I mean, the guy, he understands kids the way John Hughes understood teenagers, and in a way that he's able to take somebody who's 50 years old, 4 decades removed from being a child, and revert them back to being a kid just by sitting in a movie theater. It is, it's magic, for lack of a better word. But I think magic is probably actually the best word for it. You think you could argue that Steven Spielberg even kind of pioneered how to work with children in movies in a way that that they're still trying to emulate today, and it's a lot of it is him, because if it was so easy to do, everyone would do it, but it's not. It's a gift that he has. I mean, he's the one that directed Christian Bale when he was 13 years old in the amazing film Empire of the Sun. And I think J.J. Abrams was able to harness some of that in some way. And when we get to the overall category, I want to talk about E.T.'s influence on Super 8. But getting the cameras down low and taking the audience and transporting them back to a time when their eyes were 3 feet off the ground. But it's so much more than that too, because anybody can take a kid and stick them in a movie, but to make the audience empathize with a child it's really tough to do. One of the things that I thought that Super 8 did that I was really surprised about, if anybody saw the huge Super Bowl trailer that they did for Super 8 with the truck coming down the road and then taking the hard right turn onto the railroad tracks and charging through, and the giant explosion and everything that was in that trailer, none of that was in the movie. I was on the edge of my seat. I was getting ready for this really exciting scene, and what J.J. Abrams did was he shot all that stuff. The same with the alien punching through the door of the train. He shot all of that, and he didn't use any of it in the film. He used it for the trailer, but he didn't use any of it for the film. We were stuck on the train platform with the kids for that entire train crash, and we had to watch it from a distance, even though from seeing the trailer we knew it was going to happen. And I thought, as a marketing move, it was brilliant, and I was jumping out of my skin, and I was like, I want to be down there. I want to see this explosion, because I know what's happening down there, and forcing us to stay down on that platform with the kids it made me even just more enthusiastic to be in the scene, and I thought that was really, really great. The other thing that I thought, jumping back to E.T. now, the way that Spielberg's constructed this family, and this is why E.T. is going to get my vote. He set up the mother and the 3 children, and this father that was missing. And what he was able to do was slip himself in as the father figure. And Drew Barrymore and Henry Thomas, if you talk to him, and Robert McNaughton too, to some degree, if you talk to them today, they still consider Steven Spielberg a father figure for the few months, year that they worked with him on the film. So he constructed this family to help tell a story. He was able to slip himself in as kind of the father figure when the cameras weren't rolling, and then pull himself out. And it left this gap, and it felt like there was something not quite complete with this family, and it shows up on the screen. And it's taking the human element of directing and the emotion and the way that we connect with each other, and putting it up on the screen in a way that goes beyond lenses and lights and camera angles and shot composition. And I think that is really the genius of Spielberg, is him able to set those scenes up, and we're able to connect with his characters in a way that there may be 3 or 4 directors in the entire world that can do what he does when it comes to families and children. So
right.
My vote goes to E.T. Is there anybody still listening?
I'm still here.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good stuff.
Wake up, Amanda.
I'm here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had one more thing. I'm sorry. Can I throw this out real quick?
Time's up.
No,
time's up. No, go.
Damn it. Oh, okay. The ending with the music of E.T. I had read that John Williams, when they're doing the score is usually one of the last things they do for a movie, and they project the film up onto the screen, and the director, John Williams in this case, stands facing the orchestra and looking up at the big screen and conducts to the action on the screen, so that the music is timed out very nicely. Mm-hmm. And John Williams was having trouble making his score fit the movie. And so Spielberg offered to turn the screen off, let John Williams direct the scene, direct the score the way he wanted to. And we get this really beautiful finale score for E.T. I was watching it just now, and not knowing that when I was watching it, and I felt like the ending dragged on for a little bit, because there's this part where it just goes shot of E.T., shot of Elliot, shot of E.T., shot of Elliot, shot of E.T., shot of Elliot, and nothing is happening. They're just looking at each other. Right. And it feels, as someone who, I'm really kind of an editor first before a director, but that to me screamed, we're filling time. And then when I found out this trivia, I was like, oh, well, they were filling time. They were trying to fill it so that the UFO can fly off and make a rainbow at the right moment in the song. But that aside, Spielberg, genius with kids. Thanks.
All right, Mark.
All right, where do I begin? I guess I want to start with the lens flares. I have to admit, I've seen Super 8 twice now. The first time I really didn't notice the lens flares. I was aware of them, but I maybe didn't feel like they were overused. The second time I saw them, they were like an instant distraction. Mm-hmm. And there's the scene at the end, or there's the part at the end where they're in the tunnel or this underground area where the monster's been hiding out. There's a lens flare in the cave where there's no light. No light coming from anywhere. There's a lens flare, and that was just like, my God, that's so inexcusable. There's no source of light down there, and there's a lens flare. That really bugged me. And it's interesting. In E.T., you have to think it was a creative decision to not show the faces of these people that are after E.T., right? Mm-hmm. They're just sort of like these. You have the guy with the keys, got lots of guys walking around with flashlights, etc. And I almost think that JJ in Super 8 didn't go that route because he didn't want to be like E.T. But I think it would have better served Super 8 if in the beginning these army guys would have shown up, and maybe you just see their uniforms, just see their outfits, and not see there's sort of like these faceless people after them. I think that would have maybe added a little bit more to the mystery, but he didn't want to do that because people would say, oh, that's too much like E.T. But I think it would have been the right move. So I think JJ errs in 2 different spots there. Mm-hmm.
Well,
but
Mark.
my vote's going to go to E.T. For many of the reasons Tom pointed out and probably said better than I ever could. But just the pacing of the movie, the camera work, the performance he gets from the kids. There's a reason it's kind of a timeless classic and will be remembered forever. And it's because of what Spielberg can do. And JJ has more toys. There's no way you could have created that train wreck scene from Super 8 back in '84, whenever E.T. came out. Like, the technology just wasn't there. So JJ is able to do more from that aspect, but Spielberg could rock a camera like no one else could back in that time. So I am going to go with E.T.
All right, it was 82, by the way.
Oh, 82. Okay.
Yeah, and I was gonna say there's a piece of trivia on here that, with the exception of Elliot's mom, no adults' faces are shown until the last half of the film.
Right.
So and Tom also mentioned that he shot most of the film from from the kids' height. It wasn't high up above them; it was down on their level. So, yeah, he kind of does have a way with making you feel like a kid again. He screened the film. Let me see. I just lost my place. He personally screened the film at the White House for Ronald Reagan and Nancy Davis. And one for Super 8. During post-production, Judd Apatow was shown some completed footage. When he praised it as awesome, J.J. Abrams subsequently placed Apatow in the special thanks section of the credits.
I was wondering about that because I stayed till the very end and saw his name in there, and I just maybe scratched my head a little bit.
Yeah.
That's not fair because I saw the trailer 6 months before it came out, and I said it was awesome.
Yeah.
So you should be a
credit?
special thanks.
Yeah. Where's my credit?
All right. Well, it's on here, Tom. He'll listen to this, and he'll thank you later.
He'll add it for the DVD.
Yeah, there we go.
Like Kevin Smith did with Clerks 2 or whatever.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to overall. And we'll start with, let's see, who should we start with? Let's start with Mark.
All right. I was going to save my bits about the score till the end, even though everyone kind of touched on them in directing. But I feel like the score is a big part of both of these films. And while John Williams' score is it's iconic. I mean, everyone knows the theme of E.T. when you hear it. You know the Imperial March when you hear it. You know the theme to Indiana Jones when you hear it, and you know the music from E.T. when you hear it. So it's hard to say that Michael Giacchino could have done better than John Williams did with Super 8, but as sort of a personal preference, Michael Giacchino's music really speaks to me. Like, he knows how to tug my heartstrings. He knows how to make me feel anxious. He knows how to make me feel excited and cry in the right moments and all that. Like, he just, I don't know what it is, but he has this ability. And that was a big part of what I liked about Super 8, was that JJ was doing his thing and his score goes over that. But Giacchino heightens what JJ's getting at to a degree better than I felt reacting to John Williams' score, even though with Williams' score being as iconic as it is. Mm-hmm. So the other thing that we get to, or at least I get to, in determining overall, is the rewatchability. And I've seen Super 8 twice already. I'm probably going to see it again with my dad before it leaves the theaters. I might show E.T. to my kids when they get a little bit older, but I'm probably going to be rewatching Super 8 for all the little Easter eggs and the Giacchino score and the great Elle Fanning performance. So I'm going to go with Super 8 for overall.
All right. Amanda.
Oh, man. Well, okay. People should probably know I do not like watching movies that I know will make me cry. So, in that regard...
She was dreading watching this.
I did. I absolutely did not. We waited till the last possible second for me to watch this. I did not want to watch E.T. And I cried at Super 8, too. I bawl like a baby. I get sucked into movies. So, honestly, I would be fine if I never saw either of these movies again.
Wow.
Because I bawl and I get sucked in. The whole score thing, I've seen, some of the Star Wars, heard the John Williams there, heard the John Williams in the Indiana Jones. So at this age, watching E.T., all I could hear when I was watching that was Indiana Jones and Star Wars. Which wasn't bad because it's still, his music fits the emotion that it's supposed to convey in the scene. So I think that that's good. But I have to give my vote to E.T. because I think overall it was better. The story was better. The execution was better. It was more original for the time period. It's lasted longer than I anticipate Super 8 lasting. So I have to give it to E.T.
All right. Tom.
Boy, I really, really like Super 8. The thing that I said the most after I came out of it and people asked me about it was that it made me feel like I was 10 years old. And there's not a movie that's done that since probably Jurassic Park. It's probably the last time. And I had to ask myself, if E.T. had just come out now, would I feel the same way? Would I feel like a kid watching E.T.? And I'd have to say no, because watching E.T. just this week, now that I have 3 kids, I really was watching the kids from more of a parental position, as if they were my kids.
Right.
Whereas Super 8, I was, in there shooting movies with the kids and riding bikes with the kids. But at the same time, it's pretty clear that J.J. Abrams is standing on Spielberg's shoulders. There's a reason Spielberg's name is just as big as J.J. Abrams in Super 8, and there's no shame in that. But if there was no E.T., there would be no Super 8. I honestly believe that if you just took E.T. out of the mix altogether, I'm not even sure that they'd make Super 8 or what kind of movie it would be. It would be something completely different if it existed at all. We had talked a little bit about the animatronics versus the CGI stuff, and it's very rare that I see any CGI stuff that I like. It's probably the stuff that I like is stuff I don't even realize is CGI, to be honest with you. I have a friend named Josh, and he splits up the Star Wars trilogies into the 2 parts. There's the animatronic episodes 4, 5, and 6, and the CGI episodes 1, 2, 3.
Right.
And he said the defining moment to him, and I go ahead and steal this from him, but the defining moment to him is in episode 4, Star Wars the original Star Wars, when Luke is walking underneath the X-Wing and he drags his hand on the bottom side of the X-Wing, and he goes, that is the difference between episodes 4, 5, and 6 and 1, 2, 3, is that tangible feeling that you could actually touch this ship and know what it feels like, because Luke actually does that and you feel that with him. And that's how I feel about CGI. I so rarely see something that puts me in the moment, and that's what I really like about E.T. the E.T. alien over the Super 8 alien, is that tangibility of it. So I guess, for overall, I'm going to give it to E.T. Just because it struck an emotional chord, even though it's probably the 12th time I've seen E.T. It still strikes an emotional chord with me when I watch it. But man, I really, really like Super 8. I'm trying to figure out if I think it's the best movie so far this year, but it's definitely in the top 3 for me. But we'll have to see. But E.T. gets my vote for overall.
All right. I have to agree with that. I think it's in top 3 for me, myself as well. Gabe.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to start out. I'd like to talk briefly, and maybe I've been getting these things all out of order. I probably should have waited for the whole score thing for the overall and all that. But I'd like to talk briefly about the train crash in Super 8, and we talked about how those kinds of things we couldn't have done at one time. Because the technology didn't really exist, and we would have never been able to do anything quite like it. Mm-hmm. And while I agree with that, I felt like when I saw the train wreck, I was kind of excited about it because I knew it was coming. I knew that it was going to be spectacular. But then in the end, I was like, oh my God, that was ridiculous. It was so over the top. It was amazing, and it was really cool. But I'm like, how fast? I'm about plausible. I'm not necessarily about realistic in movies. I'm about plausible. I'm like, how fast was that train going? What kind of mass did that train have in order to have such a spectacular crash for so long? It just was like, oh my God, that this is spectacular, but it's offensive to me from a physics standpoint. It's like it has to end. It has to end because now I'm out of the movie. I'm not in it anymore. And I was really kind of disappointed with it being so over the top. I wanted it to be spectacular, but I wanted it to be plausible. Like, oh my God, these kids saw a train crash.
Was it like Harold and Kumar riding a cheetah?
Well, almost. Yeah, I was okay with the cheetah high. I was okay with that. But when they jumped on its back,
that's it.
Yeah,
game over.
There's no way a cheetah could carry two people. Come on. I mean, one, maybe two, no way. But no, really, honestly, I mean, that's really how I felt when I saw the train crash. I was like, okay, he blew it. He lost me because it was too much. I mean, we all go to movies to see spectacular, to see that kind of stuff, but it was too much. I was like, I would have much rather have seen an extended scene with the alien coming out of the train wreck. I would have much rather have seen a shorter train wreck, a spectacular but more kind of maybe believable train wreck, and then knock my socks off with something that I don't have any reference for. Not that I've ever seen a train wreck, but I just had a feeling it was a little over the top. Knock my socks off with this alien escaping or something. You know what I mean? It's like something that I can't go, hey, that wasn't very believable. And so I felt, and the whole lens flares thing, I felt like there were so many points in this movie where he lost me. Where J.J. Abrams kind of overdid it and kind of let me go as a viewer. That even as an homage to a great film like E.T., it was really kind of a disappointment for me. Don't get me wrong. It sounds like I really hated this movie. I didn't. I enjoyed it, and I really really admired J.J. Abrams. I really love his stuff, but maybe it was built up too much. And I was disappointed that it didn't meet my expectations when I went in. But, we keep talking about E.T., and we know its place in film history, even now, some 20 years on. We know its place in film history. E.T. is a classic. It will always be a classic. It will always be rewatchable. It'll be enjoyable to generations to come. But I'm not sure. I think Super 8 will go into history as an excellent movie. But I don't think it'll ever, at least not for me, I don't think it'll ever qualify as a classic. And I just don't think you can argue with E.T. being my choice in the overall.
All right. Anyone have anything else you want to add real quick?
Gabe, you didn't feel the train wreck was kind of expanded upon because they were trying to show it from the kids' point of view? That when these kids go back and tell the story, I mean, what they're going to say is pretty much what we saw on the screen. And now that would have worked with a framing device where the kids are older and telling the story about what happened to them when they were kids, of course. But, I mean, did you think that they kind of expanded on the awesomeness of this train wreck to emphasize that, we're dealing with kids here?
I don't know, maybe, but I didn't feel like that. Especially since we got it from so many different points of view. I think when we talked about the Spielberg movies, we talked about like a lot of this is actually, if you think about it, it's actually from a child's point of view, almost literally, and we saw it from so many different angles and so many different points of view that I didn't really feel like I felt like it was an orgy of CGI special effects. It's like, hey, look what we can do. Check out. Hey, never mind that this rail car weighs tons. Look how high we can make it look like it flies into the air. Look at the giant explosions coming off of this thing. Even though we're never made aware that there are any explosives on this train. It's not like the train has gasoline all over it. It wasn't. It's why is everything exploding? It just was. if that was the intention, it even went too far in that respect.
Yeah.
I do think, Tom, that I like these points of view, and these are really great points in the ways that I didn't look at it personally. But maybe if it was like a recollection of the kids, then we could say, oh yeah, they're kind of exaggerating because they were kids and they saw it this way. But we saw it from the kids' point of view. We saw it from a worm's eye point of view. We saw it from a God's eye point of view. We saw it from all these different points of view. So I didn't feel like it was the kids that were informing the intensity of this crash.
Now, I kind of see where Tom's coming from. I've had multiple discussions with people about 300 where they're like, well, it's not historically accurate. I'm like, it's not being told to be historically accurate. It's being told by the last surviving Spartan that was there.
Sure.
And he's trying to pump up the group. He's trying to pump up the rest of these Spartans for the next battle. So he's telling them this great epic, and that's what we get with 300. So I kind of agree with where Tom's coming from on the fact that it could have been taken from the kids' point of view, but I also agree with you in the fact that they showed it from too many angles for it to be from the kids' point of view. Although I liked the big explosions and everything. I'm a Michael Bay fan, so of course I liked all the big explosions and everything. But I really want to have a couple friends that we know watch it that are really into trains, that know a lot about trains, and I want to see. I want to know their opinion on it. Yeah.
Outside of the whole train crash explosion, Michael Bay-esque type scene, I didn't know if we got sucked into Super 8 more, like if I enjoyed it more than maybe the next person would, because I've done the filmmaking thing and I could relate to those characters more, just on that versus the fact that it was just being a kid again, which I think you get that too. But I think most people in this group have a different level that we can relate to them on, in addition to what a normal audience member could. And I think that made it more enjoyable for me. I think, I liked Super 8. It was a fun movie and it was entertaining. It wasn't as thought-provoking to me as it was to Tom, or as disturbing to me as it was to Gabe. But it was a fun movie. But I was guessing that I was getting into it more because, I got that. Let's make a whole big model and then just blow the shit out of it so we can film it for stock footage. I get that because that's where your mind goes. So,
right. Well, I agree. When we were all sitting there in the theater, we were laughing at stuff, filmmaking stuff that no one else was laughing about. When he kept yelling production value. I mean, come on, we've all been there. I know we have. So, I think we got a little bit more out of it than your usual moviegoer. I mean, would you guys agree with that?
Yeah. I think what I really kind of applaud them for is that Steven Spielberg and J.J. Abrams, when they were putting Super 8 together, and I mean, boy, Spielberg must have been on the set quite a bit. I get that feeling from watching it. But the both of them through this film kind of just readily admit, look, we're just little kids playing with expensive toys. Mm-hmm. And we're really not that far removed from these kids that were making their movie when they were 10 years old. We're just continuing that tradition, and I really like that. There's a lot of filmmakers that take themselves way too seriously, and raise their craft to this point where they're feel they're on par with the Mona Lisa. And there don't get me wrong, there is some great works of art out there, but for Spielberg and for Abrams, in my opinion, to come across and say that, we're just boys with toys, it's just, it hit a special spot for me as somebody, who's made films.
Oh, I agree.
Well, yeah, and in that respect, I think when I knew they were making a film, a zombie movie, I was hoping, I didn't know in advance that they were going to actually show the movie that the kids made at the end. But man, I was waiting for that. That was one of my favorite parts, is to see the movie that they made at the end. And to me, that was really satisfying, that they actually accomplished their goal amidst this chaos, they actually still made this movie, and we actually got to see it at the end.
Yep.
So to me, that was the most satisfying part of the whole movie. To me, is actually seeing what the kids accomplished. And granted, at least those characters, what those characters accomplished. And so, yeah, from that standpoint, that was very satisfying to me.
Mark, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, in sort of analyzing, breaking down these movies, I think Tom says that Super 8 sort of stood on the shoulders of E.T., which I largely agree with, but I kind of got the vibe from Super 8 as I did from watching like a Tarantino movie. Now, like Quentin Tarantino can reference The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and The Dirty Dozen, and whatever, and Inglourious Bastards, and we don't think, oh, he's standing on the shoulders of the spaghetti western genre, and he's trying to make something better. And he even uses Ennio Morricone's score. I probably butchered his name there. I mean, and that's clearly homage, clearly reference. But since the movies he's sort of crediting or inspired by aren't as heralded as a movie as E.T. is, I think we would give Quentin Tarantino more credit for that being original work than we would J.J. Abrams creating an original piece in Super 8. So I mean, I guess where I came from was that Super 8 is its own piece. It was likely inspired by Spielberg movies, which is cool. But I think most filmmakers are inspired by other works they've seen.
Right.
I mean, if Mike makes a movie where stuff just explodes for an hour and a half, I would have to think he's somewhat inspired by Michael Bay movie.
Oh God, I wish I could.
Oh, this guy's just standing on the shoulders of Bay, but if he tells his own story and comes at it from his own perspective and it's very personal to him, I would still sort of look at it as its own original piece. Mm-hmm. But that's just my little commentary on how I judge Super 8.
Okay. Holy cow, we got to move on. I want to get your guys' opinion, so I want you to try and keep them short. And it's about this. Here, I'll give you a little trivia. Spielberg is reported to have spent $100,000 digitally removing guns from the 20th anniversary re-release of the movie in 2002. He regretted using the scene and said he would remove it if he ever reissued the film again. So, what are your guys', all four of you, lady included, what are your opinions on the re-release? And we can start with Tom.
I think that once you take a movie and you release it, it really no longer belongs to the director. I think once you give it to people and they've become emotionally invested in the film, you can't do that. I'm sorry, but it's no longer Spielberg's film after its premiere in 1982. And I think going back and removing the guns, and I'm not a huge gun fan myself. I have 3 small children, and like the violence on TV kind of just makes me ill anymore now that I have kids, and I don't like what he did with it. I say put the guns back in. I watched the original one when we were reviewing it, and there needs to be a sense of danger, and the walkie-talkies just look comical. And that's what the biggest insult is, that he did that not for us. Mm-hmm. He was saying that this movie is, I know that it belongs to your generation, but I changed this for people down the road that are going to see it, that will never see the guns.
Right.
I don't want them to ever have any memory of it, and it's kind of a kick in the teeth to us that help make ET what it is today, Mm-hmm. And that bothers me. It really bothers me that he did that. Free Hat episode of The Simpsons or of South Park.
Oh,
they nail it. I went out and I bought it off iTunes last week because I was like, I got to have this because it speaks so much to that.
All right, Mark.
Yeah, the gun shouldn't be walkie-talkies, and Greedo shouldn't shoot first.
Amen, brother.
But I watched. I had the ability to watch the new enhanced version or the quote-unquote untouched original, and I opted for the untouched version because, like Tom said, when they're sort of escaping at the end and they sort of form this blockade and they get the guns out, it creates a sense of danger that something bad might happen to the boys or ET or whatever. And if you make those walkie-talkies, then it's just a wall of cars they need to go over to get where they're going, and it's just less dramatic. It doesn't work, and I think it was a silly move to replace them with walkie-talkies.
All right, Amanda.
Personally, I think we're drowning in a sea of politically correct bullshit. So I completely did not agree with the
Reverend.
fact that they took out guns. I think that's dumb. And if we're constantly changing art, which I think this is a medium of art, if we're constantly changing that to appease society's view of what's right and what's wrong, we're never going to be able to hold on to anything ever. It'll constantly be changing, and I don't think that you should do that. And it's funny that you brought it up, because when we were talking about Sam about E.T., I made a joke that they digitally edited out the Reese's Pieces, Reese's Pieces, because so many kids had peanut allergies. And he thought I was serious. Like, he totally thought, I was like, no, they didn't. I was just kidding. But he, it was kind of that thing where he wouldn't put it past anybody to do that. So right. I don't agree.
All right, Gabe.
That's funny. I like that. Yeah, it's interesting because I did actually watch both versions. I was fortunate enough that HBO was playing the original version of all choices. They played the original version. Mm-hmm. So I watched that first, and then I went back and had rented the re-release, the kind of edited version, and it was interesting that, in my opinion, the choices that they made to edit, and I didn't analyze it in great detail, but one interesting thing is I think they changed the pacing a little bit. I think they sped up some stuff because there were a couple of added scenes in the re-release. There's a scene where they're in the E.T.'s in the bathroom, and he gets in the tub and is underwater, and it's clearly trying to indicate that he can survive without air or something, so that we believe that he can survive when he's zipped up in that bag and frozen, basically. But I didn't feel it was necessary. It didn't really add a lot to it, and there was a scene where there's like it's Halloween. Elliot is missing. His mother's looking for him, and there's basically kind of like a Halloween riot. I mean, these kids are like lighting jack-o'-lanterns on fire, and it's all chaos is broken out on Halloween Eve or something. I don't know. I just didn't really feel like it added much to it. And then there were some scenes where they added additional expressions to E.T. When he's first discovered in the cornfield, they altered him digitally to give him like a bigger expression. When Gertie first encounters him and is screaming and he's screaming back, they changed that. There's a part where she sees his feet and she says, "Oh, I don't like his feet." They changed his feet. They digitally changed his feet. I'm like, I think those, on a certain level, were almost more offensive because it's like, why? What's the point? Right. Why are we spending time and money doing these things? Because it's not worth it. And it was interesting that they removed the guns because the guns in the original version, to me, weren't even that threatening. The most threatening part is a shot where an officer, cocks like a shotgun. Yeah. And it's kind of like, well, okay, that one's loaded. But that was the most menacing part. So I didn't quite understand, the desire to remove the guns from the movie. They did a decent job of it. If they could use that technology to remove guns from the real world, it would be pretty nice. But since they can't, it's just like, well, why are we spending so much time and effort on such a minimal thing that probably nobody ever really complained about? So I'm not sure that I felt it was necessarily a travesty. Although I really like your points, especially Amanda's point on like where does it end? Where at what point do we stop altering art to please the masses? And to please the current political climate. But yeah, I just thought it was kind of a waste of time and didn't add anything at all to the movie.
I just want to jump in here real quick. I really don't feel like the guns were taken out because Spielberg wanted to please anybody. I think he did that for himself now that he's a father. And I didn't see the move as a PC thing at all. I thought it was a it was just kind of an artistic revisionist move on his part, and I just I mean, it's a minor point. I just for the record, I just want to know. I think he did it for himself, which I think is even worse.
Actually, I think he was probably strong-armed by George Lucas, saying, "Hey, look at what we can do."
Let's
Build it better.
Yeah, we can change it. We can alter it. We can do digital effects that are worse than the practical special effects that we had before.
All right. Well, the votes are in. You guys want to hear who won? I think you know, but here we go.
Come on, Super 8.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention please. The winner by decision is E.T.
Oh, there's booers. How dare they?
They clearly never seen Lost, the people booing. That's my guess.
Well, 13-3 is the final score for us.
They were all acting, weren't they?
Yes, all acting.
Interesting.
Super 8. So we have two pieces of feedback I want to get to. First one is from Sam, our traveling Cinesmackian, if you will. He says, "Greetings, Cinesmack staff. I've just stopped long enough on my walkabout to express my views on your most recent bout. I've learned through the interwebs of Mongolia that Super 8 will be squaring off against E.T. this month. What an exciting matchup. I recently saw Super 8 as I was passing through Zambezi. I really enjoyed the film in many ways. I thought the young cast was great, and it provided me with one of the most enjoyable viewing experiences I've had in a while. That being said, I will cut to the chase on my views of these two films. If I were there with you in the beauty of Iowa land, I would vote a straight ticket for E.T. E.T. has been one of my favorite films since I was a kid. I confess I try to watch it at least a few times a year, and it still packs an emotional wallop every time I see it. While there is much to be admired about Super 8, I feel it would not be possible if E.T. did not exist. So why do I like E.T. so much? Here are some brief examples for each category. Writing. The story moves at a great pace and has some powerful emotions and great dialogue. It was nothing like that, penis breath. Acting. Henry Thomas gives one of the best child performances ever put on celluloid. Great casting and performances all around. Directing. Wow, I could go on for days, but I won't. This is Steven Spielberg at his best. He motivates strong performances and balances them with a quick pace and perfect camera placement. Overall, I just love E.T. It has all the elements of a classic, and that's why I return to it again and again. And it always delivers. I never get tired of watching this movie. Last but not least is the score. John Williams seals the deal for me. Awesome score. So overall, it was a noble effort for Super 8, but for me, E.T. wins hands down. It's a classic film that will captivate audiences young and old for years to come, if they watch the original version and not the revised bit of nonsense. And he gave us a quick note on the revised edition. If you've not seen it, then skip it. I saw the release in the theaters when it came back out, and it was wonderful to see it on the big screen, but the changes were for the most part not needed. The exception was this one scene with Elliot and E.T. in the bathroom. It was a nice small scene, but easily cut for time. I will not even go into the walkie-talkies for guns madness. It just gets aggravating. In summation, go E.T., and you all better vote for it, or you're a bunch of penis-breath leprechauns. My best to the entire staff. Sam Twomey, from a small internet cafe just off Easter Island. So, wow, he's getting around.
Nice.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. We appreciate that. And I pretty much knew where Sam was going to fall on that. He loves E.T. Loves it. We also... It's kind of funny that the score has been brought up this fight more than any fight we've ever done. I know originally when we were trying to decide what categories we wanted to score on, score was brought into it for a little while. It was part of the mix. This we actually got from a gentleman named Todd. I won't give his last name. He starts it out, "Hey, Smackers." I kind of like that. "Thank you for the effort you put into making such an entertaining podcast. I enjoy listening to film discussion where the opinions are much deeper than it sucks or it rules. This might not be the first time you've been asked this. Forgive me if that is correct. But have you ever considered film scores as a category for contention? I'm a bit of a let me start that over. I'm a bit of a movie music nerd. Favorite composers are John Williams, Hans Zimmer, and Danny Elfman, to name a few. So I was just wondering. Keep up the fantastic work. Well, thank you, Todd. And I think I'm going to throw that to you guys. Name your top 3 favorite composers. And we'll start with Tom.
Boy, I'd say Morricone would be one.
Mm-hmm.
I am not prepared for this. I'm stalling. I'm stalling so the other 3 could get their list put together.
Keep going, Tom. Keep going. I need some time.
Just dance, Tom. Dance.
John Williams is good, but I'll sit there and I'll be trying to sing the Superman theme, and I'll wind up singing Indiana Jones by mistake. And if I knew more about music, I'd probably go, I think he uses the same structure in all of his songs. Man, I don't know. I like Morricone. I already said that. Are you guys set? Are you good? You have your list put together?
Not quite, but that's okay.
Okay. And to finish off, I like Giacchino. He's really good. His stuff with is it Giacchino or Kino?
Giacchino.
His stuff with Pixar, great, just really great scores there. Let's see, my wife did the score for my movie, so I'll say her.
It's a total kiss up, Tom.
Yeah. Gabe.
It will pay in dividends.
Well, yeah, I think Ennio Morricone came to mind immediately for me as well. Now, the interesting thing about him is that I think sometimes he's a little bit kind of he's a little bit audacious and a little bit over the top. But some really memorable stuff from him. You hear it and you know immediately that it's him, and it's really beautiful. And I don't know anybody who has ever utilized someone who can whistle like that in any other score that I'm aware of. It's really incredible stuff. It's really hard to argue with John Williams. Yeah, sure. Some, like I said, even I said it earlier. There were undertones of Raiders of the Lost Ark in E.T. And a lot of his stuff kind of does have the same kind of feel to it, but so much of it is so memorable. I mean, it just sticks with you. It's hard to argue with John Williams. And our friend mentioned Danny Elfman. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if I had more time to think about it, I might not put Danny Elfman in the top 3 at this point. But I really do like his stuff, and again, kind of memorable. He's got his own kind of style, and you can almost pick it out without being told that it's Danny Elfman. So those would be my top 3 at this point.
All right, Mark.
I'm gonna go with John Williams number 1 for all the obvious reasons that everyone's already touched on. My number 2 is Michael Giacchino. He's only been nominated for 2 Academy Awards and he's won 1, so he's like 50% all time, which is pretty good. He won for Up, and he sort of is responsible for making me bawl like a 3-year-old girl during the first 15 minutes of that movie.
Oh my God. It's heart-wrenching.
It is. It really is. And it might be an off choice, but I'm going to go with Alan Silvestri for my number 3. The first compact disc I ever owned was the Back to the Future 2 soundtrack. I was a big fan of those scores, as dorky as that sounds, and he's done quality work like Forrest Gump and I mean he's done Night at the Museum, a lot of Zemeckis movies, and he's doing Captain America as well. Yes. So I don't know, he's just kind of a personal favorite, but I guess they all are. So those are my 3.
All right, Amanda.
Well, Mike will like this one. Is it Jablonski?
Yep, Steve Jablonski.
That does the Transformers music. Like I don't really know the names of them, and I don't ever know the names of who sings any music. But
well, they don't sing it; they compose it.
Of any musicians, does that work better for you?
All right, thank you.
So I just thought of the movies that had the strongest sort of musical themes to them that wasn't John Williams, because I was trying to be more original than some of the other people here.
Wow. Did you guys hear that?
Oh, snap.
Yeah, wow. Talk about a sin of smack.
The
a
Raiders
sugar
March
smack.
just isn't good enough for some people around here, I guess.
No, she's right. I suck.
And I do like, is it Hans Zimmer that does the Dark Knight and
Yes.
okay, and then
Yeah.
Paul Haslinger that did Shoot 'Em Up because
Hostlinger.
yeah,
that sounds right.
Shoot 'Em Up. I don't know if he's done anything else, but I walked away from that movie and was very tuned in to what that music made me feel throughout the whole thing, and I think that's so I really liked him.
All right.
But I did
Hey,
notice that we were talking about all the score and everything with E.T., and that's probably because 3 of the 4 Oscars that won had to do with sound.
Oh, well, yeah. There you go.
I'm sorry. Can I throw out 2 more now that I had some time to look while you guys
Sure.
were talking?
Go ahead.
I like A.R. Rahman, the guy that does the scores now for Danny Boyle, Slumdog Millionaire, and 127 Hours. His stuff is really great. And Thomas Newman, who did Wall-E and the theme from 6 Feet Under, American Beauty, Road to Perdition, I think was just awesome work.
Yeah,
I'd have to
so-
actually say Thomas Newman is probably my favorite. So
All right.
thank
well,
you for letting me amend.
Yeah.
I'll throw my 2 cents in. Steve Jablonsky, definitely. John Williams, for sure. I'm kind of a movie score nerd myself. And Bear McCreary, the guy who did some of the most of the Battlestar Galactica music. And I have to say one thing about Hans Zimmer. I think he's really starting... I don't know. For a while there, some of his some of his scores for movies just seem like the same old stuff, and I can't really put my finger on it, but he started. I don't know. He just started sounding different, and maybe it's just me, but like for Batman, when Batman Begins came out, it was awesome, and I mean he did Inception, he's done Pirates of the Caribbean, and it's I don't know. I think it's just better quality than what he was previously doing. So, there you go. Let's move on to our recommendations for this pod. Let's go to Mark.
All right. You guys were talking earlier about your top.
Oh, wait. Sorry.
Oh.
By the way, thank you for all the feedback. We really appreciate it, Todd, and we're glad that you enjoy the show. Tell your friends and family about it. Get them addicted so they can write in and ask us questions. Go ahead, Mark.
You guys were talking earlier about your Super 8 possibly being in your top 3 favorite films of the year. Well, I think I saw another entry in the top 3 this last weekend, and which is part of the reason it's my recommendation because I just saw it, so it's fresh in my mind. It's a very arty film. David Lynch called and said it was too abstract. But
Wow.
it was written and directed by Terrence Malick, and it's called The Tree of Life. And I kind of don't know what to call this film. It jumps around between the beginning of time and the 1950s and present day, apparently. And it does this sort of willy-nilly free will. It just kind of jumps all over the place. It mostly focuses on this family in Waco, Texas in the 1950s. This family of 5 with Brad Pitt and Jessica Chastain, and they have 3 young boys, and I guess it's sort of about their lives. It's maybe the most visually impressive movie I've ever seen. There's a lot of computer animation in it, but it doesn't feel like you're watching CGI. It looks like someone found 35 millimeter footage of the Big Bang that they happened to come across lying around somewhere, and they just put it in this movie because they thought it would be cool. It might be a hard movie to get through at times, but I can't imagine telling someone not to see it, even though I think people hearing this could see it and absolutely hate it. But I can't sit here and say don't not give it a shot because it's an incredible piece of cinema. So my pick is Tree of Life.
All right. I actually want to see it. Kind of want to see it. So
It's amazing, but I don't know if I can elaborate on that anymore.
it's just good.
It's just
Would you
good.
like to elaborate? It's good.
It's good.
All right, Tom.
I'm actually going to kind of slide away from a film pick this month, and I want to talk about a podcast and web series that you should check out if you dig film. It's called Film Riot. and I just stumbled upon this in the last 2 weeks. It's done by a guy named Ryan Connolly. It's a lot of how-to filmmaking and behind the scenes, everything from pre-production stuff to tips for shooting different kinds of shots to editing techniques, post-production stuff. It's all done very well, very informative. It moves very, very quickly. The episodes I've seen have been about 12 minutes long, which is more than enough, and they still pack in like 3-4 different topics. They did a really great one recently on the Final Cut Pro debacle is probably the word I'm going to use this week. Hopefully it's getting better. I'm kind of caught up in the middle of that right now, and it kind of hit home for me. But very comprehensive, very entertaining. I definitely check it out. Their Final Cut Pro thing took a very comical view to it, and it was very cathartic for me to be able to laugh at a situation that I was taking way too seriously a week ago. So I would check out Film Riot. You can check it out on iTunes. Or Google Film Riot. Should be able to find it, no problem. Thanks a lot.
That's a good pick. They actually do another one called Film State, too, if I remember right, where they talk about upcoming movies. They review upcoming movies and stuff. So
I kind of considered Film State a competing podcast, so I did not want to recommend it. So
well,
people should be wasting their time with us.
All right, Amanda.
I'm going to actually deviate from the recommending a film to watch and give you a film I recommend you avoid at all costs. I recorded When in Rome because it was on during like a free preview weekend or whatever. And I watched it, and the more I think about it, the worse I think that movie was. Like, the story was terrible and the characters were terrible. And I just sat down to watch it thinking, oh, this will be a cute rom-com and whatever, I'm sitting at home doing nothing. That's an hour and a half of my life I'll never get back.
Wow. All right. Gabe.
Well, I think this episode I'm going to recommend a TV show again, a TV series.
Oh, come on, Gabe.
What?
I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Because I'm going to recommend Game of Thrones. Which was just recently on HBO, and the first season just concluded. And one of my friends recommended it, so I actually got HBO again just to watch this series, and I wasn't disappointed. It took a little while to get into because they have to introduce a lot of characters and a lot of situations and a lot of locations and that kind of thing. So the first few episodes is kind of like, okay, is this going to pick up? Am I going to enjoy this? And then after they get all that introduction taken care of, it really kind of grabs you, and it has really great characters that you really care for. And as our friend Kyle from Full Body Cast would say, is that nobody is safe. Your favorite characters are not safe. And it really makes it kind of like tense and interesting. And so it's a new series that I've really gotten into, and I'm looking forward to the next season.
All right. Well, surprise, surprise. My recommendation is Transformers 3. If you guys want to see something that'll make your head explode, go see it in 3D. It was meant to be seen in 3D. James Cameron gave Michael Bay his Avatar cameras and said, have fun. There's some shots in there that just kind of blow your mind on how it looks. And the sound, they did some experimental stuff with 7.1, and it just sounds amazing, phenomenal. And it totally makes up for the second one, because I was really, really worried about going to see it because of the second one. And yeah, maybe because my expectations were lowered because of that one, but it's pretty good, and I've seen it twice so far. So yeah, Tom, if people want to get a hold of you, how can they do so?
Well, I'm on Facebook at Tom Haggis. You can just look for me there. You can also get a hold of me through OscarRadar.com, which I'm happy to say our 4-month hiatus is over, and we're going to start talking about our early Oscar picks, and probably just a monthly basis for the next couple of months while things gear up and we start getting a look at the films coming out towards the end of the year a little bit better. So OscarRadar.com. is the place to find me.
All right. Mark.
I am Jeremy Bentham 42 on Twitter, and follow me if you like retweets from Damon Lindelof and tweets about Lost, because that's about it.
Yeah, holy crap, man. I know more about Lost, and I've never watched an episode in my life.
I only caught like half of that.
I said I know more about Lost than normal people do, and I've never watched it a day in my life.
All right, party on. And I'd say find me on Facebook, but it's really weird. I'm not the only Mark Johnson on Facebook, so I might be a little hard to find.
Yeah, that's true. Amanda.
Amanda Zook Keeler on Facebook, or Amanda82 on Twitter. And I don't have any specific passion that I obsess about, like some people I know.
I think that's you.
Lost.
Roll, Reggie. Sorry.
All right, Gabe.
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, Gabriel Rowold, Rowold on Facebook. And I do have a Twitter account, but I don't tweet a lot, so I wouldn't recommend even looking for it.
Well, all right.
I'm going to tweet you right now, Gabe.
Next, just want to point out that next month's episode is going to be a little late, thanks to a certain competition that's going to be happening in Des Moines at the end of July. So that's just going to kind of push us back 1 week, and we'll be out just a little bit later. And we're going to have a surprise guest. We would appreciate it if you could leave us a review on iTunes or whatever podcasting service you happen to use. You can contact us at cinesmack@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Just search Cinesmack. And visit our little part of the webernets at cinesmack.wordpress.com. Our next episode, join us as we throw... My notes are gone. What are we throwing against each other?
Crumb
and American Splendor.
Crumb. Okay, thank you. Because my computer restarted and it lost everything that I had written down. So Crumb and versus American Splendor. Is that right? Yeah?
That's right. Yeah.
And we're going to be joined by a special guest named Andrew Zumwalt, who is a local filmmaker in Des Moines. So we'll get another filmmaker's perspective in on this. And as usual, you can find other Southsider Studios podcasts on iTunes. Just search Southsider Studios, and you can check us out on YouTube. Check all of our... I'm linked up with Gabe's One Genome Short and linked up with Tom's Cheshire Moon Films. And make sure you go on there and watch Tom's music video for Mumford & Sons. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you very much.
So for Mark, Gabe, Amanda, and Tom, and myself, thanks for listening.
Right here.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Cinesmack. This is Mike, and joining me are our usual, well, three of our usual panel of judges, Mr. Tom Haggis.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Senior Mark Johnson.
Hola, Buenos Aires, nachos.
We start over.
I wasn't ready for you to throw it to me. I didn't know
That's a
you
good
were...
response, so.
Keep going. We're too far in.
Just go, man. Just go.
And Mrs. Gabriel Rowold.
Happy to be here.
I mean, Sir Gabriel Rowold.
Yes. Greetings.
Oh, Mark, you're killing me. Killing me.
There's nothing like that, penis breath!
This has been a test of the Southsider Studios podcast system. This was only a test. If this were a true lack of entertainment, your head would explode. Go to iTunes and subscribe to our feed. Just search Southsider Studios.